Yo, what's up, YouTube? So, yeah, okay. I'm making this video for a couple reasons. Kind of not so much like the other videos that I've made in the past, but yeah, it's gonna be kind of hard for me to talk about, I guess. It shouldn't be, but, but yeah. So, like, I guess in this video, I want to tell, like, my coming out story. And, like, sort of how it went down, and kind of, like, what it was like, and where my mind was at while it was going down, and, like, while I was leading up to telling my parents, and when like, how it actually went down and stuff. And so I'm gonna preface it by just kind of saying, like, shit's been kind of tough lately, and I've been kind of, like, super contentious with my own emotions, and with, like, how I feel, and with, like, how like, my level of acceptance for myself, which probably won't make much sense for anyone that, like, knows me personally. I'm making this video for the love of my life, and I guess, like, I just kind of want him to see where my feelings are at, because I'm not good at communicating, and sometimes when I'm face to face with somebody, I just clam up, and I've been having a big issue with that lately, where, like, so and I just thought I'd say that, and I'm sure, dude, this video is for one person, and one person alone, and it's not gonna make sense to anybody else, probably, but if it does, then wonderful. If it does, if it provides, like, some kind of help to, however, just so I'm, so basically, this is how it went down. I remember it was like, it must have been like 2 years ago, and the way that I came out probably won't be the same as, like, well, because I'm transgender, and I hadn't come out about any of it yet. Like, I came out about all of it at once, being, like, terminology gets tricky here, because, like, at the time, it would be gay, right? Because, I hadn't started transitioning yet, but I guess it'd be straight now, because, you know, like, if you're a woman who likes men, that's a straight woman, and, like, categorizations and labels can be tough, but, I came out all at the same time, like, for all of it. I didn't, like, start with one facet of my psychosexual being, you know what I mean, my soul, and then, like, work my way into the full. I kind of had to spill my guts out all at once, because so, like, I remember when I was young, I knew that, like, when I was younger and thought I was a guy, I'm laughing because it's not gonna make any sense to anybody else, dude. Okay, but anyway, so when I was younger and thought I was a guy, I knew that I was gay by the time I was, like, in 5th grade. Like, I knew I wanted to wear, like, skirts and, like, tutus and shit by the time I was, like, 3 years old. So, like, I already knew there was, like, something whack was going on with that, because there was no other guys that wanted to besides, and I knew I was kind of, like, different in that way, but I didn't want to talk about it, for my entire upbringing, I was deeply ashamed of it, and, like, I knew that, I knew I felt that way really early on, like, when 5th grade, and by the time, like, 8th grade hit, and, like, puberty started and shit, in my own mind, I had kind of, like, decided, for some reason, I had decided that I was going to go to the grave with that shit. Like, I decided that I wasn't going to tell anybody, and that I needed to hide it, and I needed to repress it, and that I needed to, which is never, just for what that's worth. We all go through that, but, like, people who are in that situation, no matter what, but it's never the right play to just hide from how you feel, and to bury it, and to just fog it out, and run from, it's never the right play. I'm not saying it was a good idea, and, but, for some reason, that's how my mind was about it, for, dude, like, probably, like, from 8th grade all the way through senior year, and I was even dating a girl at the time in senior year, and she was, like, my best friend, but that's it. And, like, I could tell, like, but like, I was learning what love is, but I was also learning at the same time that there's many different types of love, and the same love that I feel for one gender wasn't the same love that I felt for the other gender. And for a long time, I would tell myself that I'm bi. You know what I mean? I would tell myself, oh, yeah, like yeah, either or, it don't really matter. You know what I mean? But, yeah, it can just be really hard to admit, but, like, I don't know what it is. Like, for the longest time, I even, like, convinced myself that, like, but, sorry, I'm sorry, trying to explain this in a way that, so, like, it's kind of weird, like, I don't know how to, well, I guess he knows, but, and, but, sorry about that, y'all, just fucking zonked out for a second there, but, I knew something was up with that very early on, and when I was in puberty and, like, in high school and shit, I just had it super repressed, and I had myself convinced that I liked pussy and shit. I convinced myself, and I couldn't figure out, like, why it all felt like, like, when I dated 2 girls in this life, and, like, before I, like, came to terms with my feelings and shit and stopped pretending, but, I dated 2 girls in this life before I came out and stuff, and both times, like, dude, like, for the second one, we just didn't have sex. we just didn't, and we did it for, like, 8 months or 9 months or some shit, and we just didn't, and that was a really, it was like a rebound relationship, and I was kind of using it just to hide from how I felt, and, I would say, like, maybe, like, around 20, so, like, I was born in 98, and I graduated high school in, like, 2017, and by, like, 2019, 2020 was when I was dating the second girl, and it was a bad time, it was, and by the time we broke up, which was right before I met, and, so, once I broke up with her, I started to, like, really self-reflect about how I feel, like, what I want from a relationship, like, what am I dating just to, you know what I mean, like, for love, or just for coping, or just for, like, you know what I mean, appearances, like, to make my parents happy and shit, do you know what I mean, and I had to self-reflect about that really hard, and I kind of realized during that time that I was trans after an acid trip. It was like after an ego death, I realized that I was trans, and I realized that, like, I was only interested in guys, and I started to, like, wear the other gender's clothes, like female clothes and stuff. I started to wear, like, all feminine clothes, and I even came out at work and shit like that, which was, I came out at work first, I think. Did I come out at work first? I'm pretty sure. Like, as trans. And yeah, I had to ask to have my name changed, and they got me a new name tag. Dude, it was at Chick-fil-A, and believe it or not, they were super cool about it. Believe it or not. I love telling the story whenever I get the chance, because nobody would think that Chick-fil-A would be cool about a transgender employee, but the Chick-fil-A that I worked at was wonderfully accepting about it. They made me a new name tag, and they're real cool about it. And they kind of made sure I felt welcome and stuff like that. And I started to tell my friends, you know what I mean, before I told my parents. I would, like, tell them that I'm changing my name to Piper, and I would tell them that, like, I prefer she, her pronouns and shit like that. And it was tough to, like, it was really tough. First, I'm telling you right now, the hardest battle is not telling your parents or your friends or work or anything like that. And if you're gay, you don't really have to tell work, which is nice. But yeah, if you're trans, it's a different story. But the hardest, the, like, hardest battle to fight when it comes to that shit is your own internal, like, how you feel about yourself. Like, not repressing your own emotions and, like, coming to full terms with your sexuality and, like, accepting yourself and shit. And yeah, and that's the hardest, that is the most difficult battle to overcome when it comes to coming out. It's not telling anyone else, it's admitting it to yourself. That's the hardest battle. Once you do that, it's not smooth sailing, but it's much smoother sailing because you're on your own side at that point. And if you're on your own side, as opposed to you being against it and therefore everyone in your life being against it because they don't know, do you know what I mean? Like, everyone in your life, if you are gay and, you know, you're acting straight, then everyone in your life is going to speak to you as if you're straight and, like, ask you if you have a girlfriend and, like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. And if you're not out yet, sometimes it can seem like everyone in your life is, like, against it just because, you know what I mean? And it's easy to get in your own head about that and to, like, start mentalizing that, like, nobody in your life would accept it because, you know, they already know you in one way. However, I will say, typically speaking, people that are real and people that actually care about the real you know what I mean? They won't care. They won't care at all. Like, not like in a bad way, it just won't change anything. Like, if somebody genuinely is your friend or loves you or etc., you know, has real love for you as a person, it wouldn't change anything. Do you understand what I mean? And so, like, I tried to tell myself this before I came out to anybody. It was, yeah, if they actually love you, then they won't judge you. And if they judge you for it, and if they, you know what I mean? If somebody wants to cut you out of their life because of your sexuality or some shit, something like that, yeah. Yeah, but if somebody wants to do that, then let them. It's like the trash taking itself out. Do you know what I mean? Like, if somebody doesn't accept you for something that doesn't, like, it's different if you're dating somebody, and yeah, but if it's like your friend or your parent, and they don't accept you for who you just naturally are, like, God-given, you know, how you were born as and stuff, well, I know if you're trans, it's a different story, but if it's just being gay, like, if trans, yeah, don't worry, yeah, if somebody can't accept you because of that, like your parents or something, then I'd say just let it be. I'd say just let it be then. If your parents love you, then they'll accept you. You know what I mean? And that's super easy to say. It's a whole lot harder to actually... Yeah, it's a whole lot harder to actually, like, go through that. Where, like, if you tell your parents and they don't accept you, and they're like, yeah, that it absolutely devastating. And, yeah, I understand that that's something extremely difficult to go through, and it can be scarring and traumatizing and all sorts of things. And I understand that. I'm just saying, in the long run, if they can't accept you because of something that you're born as, like, then they never loved you. Right? And I kind of used that kind of line of thinking to prod myself into actually telling my parents and to actually telling my friends and stuff like that. Because it could be super easy to dwell in, like, limbo about that shit for a while. It could be super easy to just be like, yeah, I know this is how I actually feel, but it's so much easier if I just continue behaving the way that I behaved before. You know what I mean? With how everybody already thought about me. It's easier if I just do that for appearance's sake than actually go and, you know, make this... Yeah. It's easier. And the mind does tend to prefer that which is easy or convenient to that which is good. And yeah, and it's easy to fall into, like, coping cycles of avoidance and shit like that. You know what I mean? Just going in circles. But eventually, if you're anything like me, if you're in my position where, you know, eventually it kind of just, like, you realize that it's your own happiness is worth it. You know what I mean? Like, even if it's more difficult to be openly gay, even if it's more difficult, so to speak, I haven't found it to be more difficult at all, by the way, but yeah, even if it could be more difficult, your own happiness is worth it. You know? Your own happiness is worth it. Because you're just shooting your own self in the foot by denying your own emotions. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're not helping anyone else out in your own life. You're just hurting your own self if you're pretending to be anything but you are, you know? And so, yeah. Anyways, to continue the video. Dude, yeah. Kind of how it went when I first came out to my parents, which this was besides my own self, right? The parents is the toughest, yeah, like, hurdle to overcome, and it's during the coming out path. Yeah. That's the second hardest hurdle to overcome to spiritual freedom, I would say. Yeah. And for me, I came out to my mom first because I figured she would be more, you know what I mean? It made sense in my mind that she would be more accepting than my dad would be, just because I figured at the time that my dad really wanted a super manly, macho, you know what I mean, like, son that he could play catch with and shit, and, like, who wanted to play sports and, like, you know, cared about tools and, like, cars and shit, and, like, yeah, which I'm not too far off of that, but I figured that it would be easier to come out to my mom first. I ended up not being right about that, by the way. Like, my dad was very accepting and stuff like that. It was all in my own, like, I mentalized it, and, like, I started to think that this is how he definitely would react if I said this, so I can't, because that's how he would react, and that would be terrible. And I didn't know how my dad was going to react, because how he actually ended up reacting when I told him was not how I thought it would go in my mind at all. I thought he was going to be pissed, devastated, disown me, judgmental, oppositional. Do you know what I mean? And when I actually sat down to tell my dad, I was like rushing inside. I had been hanging out with my friends, and my dad came home. He had been out of the house, and he came home through the front door, and I was in the garage. And I was trying to rush in to get to my room because I was wearing a skirt and a tank top. And I did not want him to see. And I rushed inside, and he caught me. And he saw me, and he's like, "What the hell is that? Like, you're wearing a skirt and shit. What are you doing?" Right? And I could tell he was like the reason he was asking so like, "What are you doing?" Like, because he knew that something had been up with that, and I wasn't telling him. And my dad just wanted me to be honest and open, right? And that's why he was kind of angry, because yeah. And once I told him what was going on, I just kind of like sat down, and I was sitting at like my fireplace, and he was like 10 feet across on the couch, and like I was just like you know what I mean, like trying to humble myself in front of him and explain without being like self-righteous about it. You know what I mean? Like not being like defensive, not being like, "This is how I am, and you better accept me," or you know what I mean? I tried to just be, "Hey, so human to human, I figured I should let you know since you're my dad," and stuff like that. Hey, like, yeah, that's the best approach, I think. Not to prove your own self or prove your own, but rather to communicate because you want to be open and honest with someone that you care about, like your family. And, like, candidly, just telling them what's up without needing them to approve or disapprove. You know what I mean? Without any expectation for a reaction. Like, not needing them to be okay with it. Or needing them to, basically just being honest. Just being honest. It's the best thing you could do. Is just be honest and speak from the most core of your heart, past your ego perspective that you possibly could when you tell them. And just do your best to be real. And I will say, if anyone in your life doesn't accept you, again, if anyone in your life doesn't accept you for something that you didn't get to choose about yourself, then they're poopy. Yeah, they probably weren't, Yeah. There's no need for judgment. There's no need for, And so if somebody's being like that towards, it's never your fault if somebody's unkind to you. It's always someone, there's never a good enough reason to be unkind to somebody. There's never a good enough reason to be, It happens though sometimes, but if somebody's unkind to you about that, and I try to tell myself that, but when I kind of skipped around a little bit. I'm skipping around a lot, but and I kind of, well, when I told my mom, it was like, she was a lot cooler with it. It was in the car, and I remember, I kind of like, for some reason, I remember it better now. For some reason, when I was in that car ride, I knew that I was at like this threshold, like in space-time, a threshold in space-time where I was faced with, I need to either be honest and come clean, or like forever hold my peace. For some reason, that's how that moment felt. I remember my mom was just like driving me home from what was it? Something like, I don't even remember, but might have been school, like college or something. I don't remember, dude. I don't remember like the context of the car ride, but I do remember for some reason, in that car ride, just, I had this awareness about me, where it was like, I need to say something. I need to say something. I need to say something. And I just kind of like, I remember, I was like, okay, here we go. And I was like, okay, hey mom, I got something I gotta tell you. And she was like, as soon as you say something like that, you know what I mean? Like, they kind of already know what you're gonna say. Yeah, but, you know what I mean? Yeah. And she was just like, okay, what is it? What's, yeah. And, yeah. And, yeah. And I remember just like at first I was doing kind of like what I've been doing this whole video, where I'm just kind of like stumbling around with my words and like, you know what I mean? Like going on tangents and like long pauses and shit. And eventually like you just like cough it up kind of, you know what I mean? You're just like, I'm trans, or you know what I mean? Like, and with my mom, when I first told her, I remember it was like, first I said I was trans, because I had been changing my name at work and stuff like that, and like, yeah, I figured it was time to at least let her know about the name. That's the trickiest part about being trans, is like, if you're gay, you could still be gay and hide it, you know what I mean? But if you're trans, like with the name and with clothes, like, yeah, you can't, it's hard to be trans and to hide being trans, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so like, yeah, but yeah, not that you should hide either. You shouldn't hide anything about how you were born, like, including being trans, which is how you were born. Yeah, it's natural, and yet you shouldn't hide anything about it. It's how God made you, and so it's beautiful, and yeah, just like a tree, or a sunset, or anything else that's natural. So is you, the viewers, sexuality, and you, the viewers, gender orientation, and all that. Yeah. So, yeah. And yeah. And I remember, like, first I told my mom that I was trans, and that I wanted to change my name. And she was like, I remember at first what she said was, her reaction at first, she came around pretty darn quick to it, and started being, like, way more accepting, and, like, way more chill about it, and accommodating, I guess, with the name, and with the pronouns, and stuff like that. But, no. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. But at first, her reaction when I first told her was, I'm never gonna have grandchildren. Which was like, I remember being like, we can still adopt and stuff, and like, yeah. And it's like, I was adopted, and so my parents it's a straight marriage, and I was adopted, and so if, you know what I mean? How is it different? And like, yeah, and so, yeah, she couldn't be too, she couldn't be too, like, judgmental or, like, dejecty about the idea that she would never have grandchildren, because if she can adopt, and yeah, then so can, yeah, and it's not different, and like, yeah, it wouldn't be different for a gay couple to adopt any more than it would be for a straight couple to adopt, and like, yeah. And my mom, like, she, like, saw, I guess, kind of that perspective. She, like, yeah, well, yeah, my parents always, yep, yeah, and yeah, but yeah, she eventually, like, I don't know, like, both of my parents eventually, there was just this weird, because, like, nobody else was calling me my old name. Everyone else was calling me Piper. All of my friends. Eventually, my parents just stopped dead naming me, and it was really quite, I consider it a blessing, to be honest, but, like, there was just this mental shift that happened where they just stopped arguing with me about it. Like, there was no more contention about, why can't you just be a gay guy? And, like, you know what I mean? Why do you need to get hormone treatment and blah, 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 and all this? And yeah, at first there was all that, yeah, they didn't want me to get hormone treatment, they didn't want me to wear different clothes, they didn't want me to change my name, they didn't want me to tell anyone in my family, they didn't want, yeah. But all of those kind of hurdles, like one by one, the universe kind of like showed me that when you follow your heart, not just your like fears or your like ego, when you follow your heart, it's like God rewards that. The universe rewards that when you follow your heart. And I noticed that since I was honest with my parents about it, and since I just came clean and told them that I was trans and told them that I liked guys and stuff like that, because I was honest, they became like my relationship with my parents became more real, like way more real than it had ever been growing up. Because all throughout growing up, dude, I would not talk to them about anybody that I liked, or if I was dating somebody, for some reason, I just never would talk to them about it. I would hide it. And yeah, and there was always this like level of like ego between me and my parents that prevented us from having any kind of like, you know what I mean? Genuine, heart-to-heart, yeah. And coming out actually made us closer as a family, because I was dwelling in truth, and I wasn't hiding from my own self anymore. And so my own self was there, was present for myself and for everyone around me. And life got better. Life got better. Life got way better once I came out, because I could just live in truth. Because I could just be me. It's an immense weight off your shoulders. It's an immense weight off your shoulders. And it's worth it. So if anyone is, you know, waiting on coming out, or, you know, going back and forth about it, or like trying to tell themselves that they'll take it to the grave or some shit, first of all, good luck. if that's where you at right now, and you think you're gonna take it to good luck. Good luck. If you do decide to, you know, come to terms with your own self and to tell the world all that, then I wish you the best of luck. And I hope you know that at least you have support with me and with lots of channels on YouTube, and there's lots of online communities, and there's lots of like college communities and stuff like that that are very open and accepting of this type of stuff. And yeah, so if anybody is, you know, going back and forth in their head about it, and they're thinking about coming out, then, oh, and they have nobody to talk to about it, I'm just saying, you could always drop a comment below, and I'll do my, well, I don't have anything going on right now, like, I'll see it, and like, yeah, just to give some words of encouragement or something like that. I am here for that, and yeah, so to anybody, if anybody is planning on coming out soon, good luck. God loves you no matter what. God don't judge. I'll tell you what right now. God don't love nobody less because they're gay or trans or anything like that. So, yeah. If you are feeling like that, I hope you know it's natural. It's natural. It is not a mistake. It's not a disease. So there's no cure. And you're perfect just the way you are. And yeah. Be you. Just be you. Whatever that is, whoever that is, however rainbowy you are, just be you. Whatever you are. Just be it, yo. Just be it. Alright? Namaste. Om Tri Devaya Namaha. Om Indraya Devaya Namaha. Love y'all.